We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna. We're on text 15. It's May 13th, 2022. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata seveya bhagavat yutamashloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 15. Svashanta rupeshu itarai svarupai abhyardyamaneshu anukampita atma para avara isha mahat amsha yukta hi aja api jata bhagavan yata agni svashanta rupe shvitarai svaruper abhyardyamane svanukampitatma paravaresho mahad amsha yukta yajo pijato bhagavan yatagni svashanta rupe svitarai svarupe abhyardyamane svanukampitatma paravaresho mahad amsha yukto yajo pijato bhagavan yatagni svashanta rupe svitarai svarupe abhyardyamane svanukampitatma paravaresho mahad amsha yukto yajo pijato bhagavan yatagni svashanta rupe svitarai svarupe abhyardyamane svanukampitatma paravaresho mahad amsha yukto yajo pijato bhagavan yatagni. Would anyone online like to recite?
Swashanta rupe shvitarai swarupe
Svashantarupe Shvitarai Svarupe
Abhyadamaneshvanukam pitatma.
Abhyardhyamanesvanukam Pitatma
Pralavahisho mahadam sayukto.
Paravaresho Mahadam Shayukta
Yajo pijato bhagavan yatagni.
Yajo Pijato Bhagavan Yatagni
Vashantarupe Shvitarai Swarupair
Svashantarupe Shvitarai Svaruper
Abhyadyamaneshvanukam pitatma
Abhyardhyamanesvanukam Pitatma
Paravaresho mahadam shayukto
Paravaresho Mahadam Shayukto
Yajo pitato bhagavan chatagni
Yajo Pijato Bhagavan Yatagni. And we'll go to the word for word. Svashanta Rupeshu. Unto the peaceful devotees of the Lord. Itarai, others, non-devotees. Swarupai, according to their own modes of nature. Abhyardhyamaneshu, being harassed by. Anukampita Atma, the all-compassionate Lord. Para Avara, spiritual and material. Isha, controller. Mahat Amsha Yukta, accompanied by the plenary portion of Mahatattva. He, certainly. Aja, the unborn. Api, although. Jata, is born. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Yata, as if. Agni, the fire. Translation. The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creations, is unborn, but when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful because they have no material hankering. A liberated soul has no hankering and therefore he has no lamentation. One who wants to possess also laments when he loses his possession. Devotees have no hankerings for material possessions and no hankerings for spiritual salvation. They are situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord as a matter of duty, and they do not mind where they are or how they have to act. Karmis, Jnanis, and Yogis all hanker to possess some material or spiritual assets. Karmis want material possessions, Jnanis and Yogis want spiritual possessions, but devotees do not want any material or spiritual assets. They want only to serve the Lord anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds that the Lord desires, and the Lord is always specifically compassionate towards such devotees. The Karmis, Jnanis, and Yogis have their particular mentalities in the modes of nature, and therefore they are called Itara, or non-devotees. These Itaras, including even the Yogis, sometimes harass the devotees of the Lord. Durvasa Muni, a great yogi, harassed Maharaja Ambarish because the latter was a great devotee of the Lord. And the great Karmi and Jnani Hiranyakashipu even harassed his own Vaishnav son, Prahlad Maharaj. There are many instances of such harassment of the peaceful devotees of the Lord by the Itaras. When such friction takes place, the Lord, out of his great compassion towards his pure devotees, appears in person accompanied by his plenary portions controlling the Mahatattva. The Lord is everywhere in both the material and spiritual domains, and he appears for the sake of his devotees when there is friction between his devotee and the non-devotee. As electricity is generated by friction of matter anywhere and everywhere, the Lord, being all-pervading, appears because of the friction of devotees and non-devotees. When Lord Krishna appears on a mission, all his plenary portions accompany him. When he appeared as the son of Vasudeva, there were differences of opinion about his incarnation. Some said, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some said, he is an incarnation of Narayan, and others said, he is the incarnation of Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. But actually, he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And Narayan, the Purushas, and all other incarnations accompany him to function as different parts of his pastimes. Mahadamsha Yukta indicates that he is accompanied by the Purushas who create the Mahatattva. It is confirmed in the Vedic hymns, Mahantam Vibhum Atmanam. Lord Krishna appeared just like electricity when there was friction between Kamsa and Vasudeva and Ugrasena. Vasudeva and Ugrasena were the Lord's devotees, and Kamsa, representative of the Karmis and Jnanis, was a non-devotee. Krishna, as he is compared to the sun. He first appeared from the ocean of the womb of Devaki, and gradually he satisfied the inhabitants of the places surrounding Mathura, just as the sun enlivens the lotus flower in the morning. After gradually rising to the meridian of Dvarka, the Lord set like the sun, placing everything in darkness, as described by Uddhava. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 15. Svashanta Rupesh Vitarai Svaruper Abhyadyamane Svanukampitatma Paravesho Mahad Amsha Yukto Yojo Bijato Bhagavan Yatagni. The personality of God, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creations, is unborn. But when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva. Hare Krishna. Okay, so Hare Krishna. So this metaphor is used just like fire. So I mean, we can think of like fire is there in wood. And it's not manifest. And through a particular process of heat and flame, okay, if through heat, then the fire gets manifest, okay. So the Supreme Person of Godhead, Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna is everywhere. Andantarasta, Paramanu Chantarasta. Krishna is in every atom. Sarvasya Jaham Ridisa Nivisto Matasmi Tirganama Pavanamcha. Krishna is in the heart of all living entities, right? So Just imagine if we're just realizing Krishna in the heart of all living entities, how that would affect our way of relating, for actually realizing Krishna in the heart of all living entities. So that we might say the heat is this process of bhakti yoga, that to the extent, to whatever extent that we're engaging in bhakti, devotional service, bhakti mama vijanati. Okay, so I hear something about the sound is not so high. Okay, I'm going to do something. Okay. Is that any better? Yeah. Closer. Just a second.
Maybe your audio setting.
Okay, check on it.
Maybe the microphone volume is low.
Okay, maybe I think it's everything I know to check is up, but let me keep trying here.
I hear you well.
You're hearing me well. Okay. Audio settings. Okay, volume seems to
I hear it well.
Yeah, okay. All right, and I'll try to speak louder for those who maybe aren't hearing so well. All right, okay. So, okay. So, so we engage in bhakti, and then we get more and more realization of how God is present everywhere. So it can be cheap. It can be rather like superfluous to say God is everywhere. Well, I mean, that's true. That's true. That's true. Then the question becomes, how much am I realizing God is everywhere? Just like we could say, well, whatever, it's not about rules and regulations or doing this or that or following this or that. Whatever I do, God loves me. So that's true. It's kind of like whatever a child does, the parent always loves. But I guess in bhakti, we're asked to say, okay, and what am I doing to cultivate my love for God? Sure, I can mess up again and again and again. Krishna still loves me. I mean, that's there. Krishna's compassion is there. And what am I doing? What am I doing or not doing to send some message to Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees that like I really want to cultivate my love for Krishna. So so love is shown through service. Love is shown through service. So that's bhakti. And so Prabhupada says, Krishna doesn't say, you can know me, you can develop your love for me through jnana or karma. No, but through bhakti. So then through bhakti, then more and more, then we realize how God is present everywhere. And this whole process of sadhana bhakti given to us by Srila Prabhupada, our current link to Krishna's parampara, the sadhana bhakti, it's about, in one sense, it's about making distinctions to come to the point where we don't need to make distinctions. I mean, we make distinctions about how to relate to Krishna. Everything's the energy of Krishna. There's one place, there's a purport in Bhagavatam where Prabhupada says, one who sees everything as Maya rather than seeing everything as Krishna is an offender. That's Mayavadi. Right? So, because sometimes, oh, this is Maya, that's Maya. In a sense, nothing is Maya. Everything is Krishna and Krishna's energy. At the same time, if I'm not seeing how something is related to Krishna, if I'm not seeing how to engage a particular energy in Krishna's service, whether it's the energy of my own mind, the energy of a profession, the energy of a relationship, the energy of a vehicle, a bank account, if I'm not realizing how to engage Krishna's energy in Krishna's service, then I'm in Maya. Maya means that which is not, and everything is factually connected with Krishna. We are connected with Krishna. Sometimes Prabhupada says, he said, well, we're disconnected from Krishna. No, we're not disconnected. We just forgot that we're connected. And so this process of bhakti is to reawaken our memory how we're connected with Krishna and how to realize everything's connection with Krishna. Yes, everything. So like, okay, like in about 24 hours, we begin something called the Sofitov Advanced Seminar here in Electra County, Florida. Right, and so it could be said, well, that's not Krishna conscious. Our attempt, our energy is that, call it transformational training. In the seminars, we use different types of music, different types of processes, and communication training, leadership training, any field of endeavor. So our attempt, like, so if someone says that, oh, well, things like psychology, transformation training, this is not Krishna conscious, then that's mistaken. That's illusion. Okay. What I mean is that Krishna is the source of all energies, including all professions, coaching and social services and mental health and medicine. Krishna is the source of all energies. Now someone says, well, what you're doing, David Wolf, is not a very effective example of how to engage things like coaching and psychology and Krishna consciousness. Then, okay, I'm ready for feedback. How I get to refine my service to Srila Prabhupada. Without any doubt, Srila Prabhupada and all of our acharyas, they want their followers to be leaders in all respectable fields of endeavor, okay? to be leaders in all fields of human endeavor, whether it's business or government or medicine or wellness or agriculture or construction. There's no doubt about that. The acharyas want their followers to be leaders and inspiring examples in all fields. It's described, Narada Muni describes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, idam hi pumsas tapasa shutasya suktasya siktasya chaburi datayo avi chitorta kabibir nirupito yarutamashloka gunanuvardhana. So Narada Muni in the verse, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport, Narada Muni says economics and medicine and physics and chemistry and psychology and sociology and social work and all of these professions find their perfection, completion, and source and ultimate perfect application when they're used to glorify Uttama Shloka. Uttama Shloka is a name for Krishna. He was glorified by the choicest Vedic verses. Uttama means transcendental. Tama means ignorance. Uttama means ultimate, above ignorance, transcendental to ignorance. And shloka means the verses. So those shlokas who are completely transcendental all glorify Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So all fields of human, so that's our attempt. That's our attempt. Everyone can have their views on how effective our attempt is to engage these energies in Krishna service. Our attempt is to support everyone who comes to any program, whether it's a program like the Srimad Bhagavatam discussion, a program like a foundational seminar, advanced seminar, coach training. Our attempt is to support everyone in realizing who they are is not the body, connecting with the highest guidance within, connecting ultimately with that sublime process of bhakti. So this is very important. Its importance cannot be overstated. Right here, Prabhupada, in the first line of the purport, Prabhupada writes, the devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful because they have no material hankering. And this is very sublime. So Prabhupada says, devotees have no hankerings for material possessions and no hankerings for spiritual salvation. So Prabhupada's talking about a very high level of devotee here, not even desiring spiritual salvation. And it says, karmis want material possessions, jnanis and yogis want spiritual possessions. Spiritual possessions. What could be wrong with that? Prabhupada's not saying anything's wrong. he does say, but devotees do not want any material or spiritual assets. So this is like, and Prabhupada's giving very exalted examples, like tomorrow is the appearance day of Lord Nrsimha, right? And the appearance of the Lord is connected with the Lord's special devotees. And so like Prabhupada gives the example here, right? He says, and the great Karmi and Jnani, Hiranyakashipu, even harassed his own Vaishnav son, Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, maybe some or most of us, we know the story of the pastimes, Lord Nrsimha appearing from a pillar, and that's an example, okay, what we're talking about, right? So Hiranyakashipu, at one point, he got so frustrated with blood, he personally was he was going to kill him. He tried to kill him through other ways, and I'm just going to personally kill you. Like so, and he was actually a very affectionate father. He was a very affectionate father. And then Prahlad, he was just, Prahlad was, it was a devotee, but just, the name Prahlad means like ecstasy. He was in such ecstasy of deep remembrance of Krishna. Like we can talk about the ecstasies of the gopis or the cowherd boys. Prahlad was fully absorbing those ecstasies there as a little child. So he was on this topmost platform. His only interest was Krishna consciousness. He shared with his friends in kindergarten or first grade, Kamaracharat Pragyo Dharmam Bhagavatamya, Manasham Dhruvam Dhamma Talab Yatru Martada. He says, yeah, don't wait till like you get old to practice bhakti yoga. Start now. And don't wait, don't waste your lives. Because then we can get distracted, we get all entangled in life in so many ways. But even apart from that, like if you want to be ecstatic and joyful, do Krishna consciousness now. This is like apart from time of death and after death and Goloka Vrindavan and all that. But this is the formula for ecstasy now. And so Prahlad was absorbed in that. And Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to like defend the honor of his brother who was killed by Vishnu in the form of Varaha, in the form of the boar incarnation. So Hiranyakashipu wanted to avenge the death of his brother. So he was the enemy of Vishnu, killed Vishnu. And then Prahlad, so Hiranyakashipu was asking his son, so what's the most wonderful thing you learned in school today? It's like Nate Vidus Vartakatimi Vishnu. Well, the most wonderful thing is that people are so foolish, they don't understand that to worship and serve Vishnu is the ultimate goal of life. What? So Hiranyakashipu is like, and Prahlad says, well, yeah, the most wonderful thing I've learned from my teachers, of course, he's not talking about his material teacher, Sanda and Marka, or the sons of Shukracharya. Even the name Shukracharya, Shukra means semen, actually. So the name Shukracharya means like he's a guru by dint of DNA, by dint of heredity, okay, by dint of family, not by spiritual realization. So of course, Narada Muni's heard from his guru, Prahlad Maharaj heard from Narada Muni while Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb of his mother, Kayadu. And Narada Muni was speaking to the mom, Prahlad absorbed it completely. So Prahlad, so again, Hiranyakashipu was an affectionate father, and he had Prahlad on his lap. Yes, what do you want to share? Like that. And then Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Artanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam. He says that the perfection of life is achieved by hearing about Vishnu and chanting about Vishnu and worshiping Vishnu and being a full 100% devotee of Vishnu. so you can say this, that this was infuriating for Hiranyakashipu, that even though he was an affectionate father, he he was ready to kill his own son. And then he said, okay, so where's your Vishnu? Where is your God? Is he in this pillar? And then Prahlad went, well, sure. Like, so Prahlad has, that's it. So Krishna is in every atom. And so Prahlad was meditating on Krishna, and Krishna appeared in the form of half man, half lion, in the form of Lord Nrsimhadev through the pillar. He's in the pillar and he manifested. So Krishna manifests. So like there's a verse, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam shujamyam, wherever there is a decline in dharma and a rise of adharma, okay, then I appear. It appears in the form of his name, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a well-known verse. So some of you have heard me share this, but I'm inspired to share it again. So this verse, this was back in more than 30 years ago. I was residing in the Hadar section of Haifa. We had a book distribution party. We were focusing at that time different Arab villages in North Israel. In years previous, we focused on Jewish moshavs and towns and cities and like that. And so in different Arab villages, and the Druze actually wrote a book about some of these book distribution adventures to the Arab villages, especially the Druze. But we heard, so we were in the city called Haifa. Haifa is not a small town. Haifa is a city, and we heard that at the top of Haifa, in the Carmel area, there's kind of like an Arab village that's part of Haifa. And even though we'd been there already for several months, we'd never visited there. So the place was called Kababir. And actually, when I first came to Israel, I came on a ship, on a boat from Greece. And on the way, we stopped in Cyprus and Crete. And then we came to Israel. And the first thing we noticed, there's Mount Carmel. And on the top, there are these, very majestic minarets, clearly a mosque, there's minarets. And so by this time, I've been in Israel like 7 years, but I'd never been to those minarets. There we were in Haifa. When I first came to Israel in 83, I got off at Haifa port. I did not come by airplane in Haifa port. So we visited Kababir, and it was a few Sankirtan devotees. We had a Suzuki van loaded with books. And so I had my cart loaded, and we started strolling around, and it was very quiet. There was like no one on the streets. It was maybe 10 a.m. and there was hardly anyone around. And then I passed by, it's this very gorgeous mosque. And that's the minarets that we see from the Mediterranean Sea up top. Very gorgeous. I can see like practically the whole village of Kababir, which is actually part of Haifa. They were in the mosque. Okay. So I strolled around a bit more. And then maybe half an hour later, I come back to the mosque again, and I see that everyone's coming out of the service. Everyone's coming out of the mosque. Okay, I know there's some people around who can present Prabhupada's books. And then there was one, like I was in my late 20s at the time. There was someone maybe a little older than me, in his 30s, and he was the sheik. He was dressed all in black, had the black beard, and like young, and like a lot of effulgence. And he seemed charismatic. He was clearly he was the sheik leading the service. He was in his 30s. And so it's kind of like, it's like a sidewalk leading up to the mosque. And we're maybe 20 yards away from each other. I'm in full devotional attire, dhoti, kurta, sikha, tilak, and I'm strolling my cart, and he sees me, this Muslim sheik, and he sees me, and he makes eye contact, and he says, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanam dharmasya taratmanam shrijam yam. So this was kind of surreal because I'm there to present to him like, oh, here's a book called Bhagavad Gita, sir. He's quoting Bhagavad Gita, like, you know, Sanskrit a lot better than I could quote like that. And he's quoting Bhagavad Gita. In those days, in those villages, we were having experiences like this multi-times per day, like just these surreal experiences, multi-times per day, amazing experiences, just like this. But each one different and unique. That's why when I got back to the United States in 1990, 91, I'd be talking to devotees sometimes, and they asked me about my experiences in the Middle East, so I'd share, and they would say, well, you should write a book. So we wrote the book. So the young Muslim sheikh, he invited me to his home. So we walked to his home, and it turns out that their sect of Islam, it's called Ahmadiyya, and it's a sect, and their stance is that, you know, that really the most recent prophet after Muhammad is Ahmadiyya, and they go through a chain that comes through India, and they accept Krishna as a prophet. Of course, Krishna says, Ahamadir Devanam Maharshinam Chasarvasha. He says, I'm the source of all prophets and sages. Anyhow, they accept Krishna as very divine, and they know Bhagavad Gita. So very fascinating experience. And he quoted that verse, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 7. So Prahlad Maharaj was like, well, you know, he knew Krishna's in the pillar. If Krishna wants to appear, he can appear. Krishna appeared. And so, yeah. So we perform bhakti, then more and more we get realization. We perform sadhana bhakti, then more and more we can, not to imitate, but we come towards that ecstasy of Prahlad Maharaj. Prabhupada talks about peace in the first sentence. So he's referring to a text in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakaliya Shanta. Says that as long as we have any desires for material enjoyment, for mystic power, to collect knowledge, desires to escape from material suffering, then we're not going to be peaceful. And Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ata Eva Shanta. And he says, oh, but if our only desire is to serve Krishna, then that's peace. We talked yesterday in our staff training about Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, anxieties undertaken in your service, Krishna, they're the source of my greatest ecstasy. Okay. So it's a very dynamic piece. Yeah, let's 100% engage. Let's take on anxieties for Krishna's mission, to relieve Prabhupada's burden, to relieve Bhaktivinoda's burden, to share Krishna consciousness, to give the sublime knowledge that truly relieves people from suffering. Let's rack our brain, use our intelligence, use our talents for that. Okay, then it's like, then that's spiritual anxiety. Of course, in terms of spiritual assets, spiritual desire, like for the vast majority of human beings, to develop a desire to become free from material bondage and to realize the futility of trying to be truly fulfilled and gratifying the senses, that actually is spiritual progress. So, you know, there's different levels. Like, yeah, if I could come in this lifetime to a level where I have no material desires and I just want to do devotional service because I want to be happy and relief from suffering, that would be a great accomplishment. And so Prabhupada's referring here to like devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, the Goswamis, where like, they're not even interested in their own happiness. Lord Shiva says to his consort Parvati, Narayana prasarve nakutashchana bibhuti sarga pavarga narikesh vapituya tadarshina. He says these devotees are amazing. He's referring to Chitraketu there. So these devotees are amazing. Like they don't care if they're in hell. They could be in hell. They could be in heaven. They could be undergoing such torment. They could have ill health, good health. They're just eager to serve. They're not even looking for that. They're just eager to serve Krishna. These devotees are amazing. Because what happened is Parvati, you know, for some reason, she got angry at Chitraketu and she cursed him, you know, to like some sort of hellish existence. And he responded because, and so he said, Oh, thank you, Mother. This, I appreciate this. I know this is from me. It's like he didn't even object. And so Shiva and Parvati, they were appreciating, wow, these devotees of Krishna, they're amazing. Lord Chaitanya is also exemplifying that highest level of consciousness. The second text of the Sri Shikshastakam, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Jagadisha Kame Mama Janmani Janmani Sri Bhavata Bhakti or Hetukhitvai. And so so I don't want anything like I don't want beautiful women, I don't want wealth, I don't want followers, I want to be famous. He says, all I want is to serve you birth after birth. So what he's saying there, his mentality is, of course, because I'm so wretched and I have such low desires. Of course, I'm going to take birth again and again. Of course, fine. Just let me serve you. This is like that. And similarly, we just sang, but Chakudana Duloye Janme Janme Prabhu say, and that's Narottam Das Thakur saying, yeah, my spiritual master opened my eyes with authoritative knowledge. He fills our heart with transcendental knowledge. So just let me serve you, Janme Janme Prabhu. Just my Lord, Srila Prabhupada, just let me serve you birth after birth. This is what we aspire for. Just let me serve you birth after birth. I have no reasonable right to hope that I'll like go back to Goloka Vrindavan or something like that. Okay, fine. Just let me serve you birth after birth. And then of course, that's Prahlad Maharaj's mood. That's Six Goswami's mood. Yeah. So everything can and ought to be used in Krishna consciousness. Krishna Samande Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. And so that's a verse by Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada often quotes. It's the Yukta Vairagya verse. Yukta, like the word yoga, to connect. So real renunciation means to realize how to connect everything with Krishna service, with bhakti yoga. And that and again, to the extent that we discipline ourselves to follow the principles of sadhana bhakti as given to us by Srila Prabhupada, then each day, each year, we get more and more realization how to do that. And I see that as an important point, because one thing to go, it's like, no, Krishna consciousness only exists in a temple or something. It's a very narrow view, right? Because the idea is, well, because one view can be like, no, Krishna's everywhere, so there's no point to go to the temple. Well, Prabhupada say, Krishna's everywhere, so he's also in the temple. So let's go there too. Let's not reject that. The temples are important. And yeah, let's make our home a temple. Let's make our heart a temple. Let's make our heart a temple. And then the idea of, you could be like, yeah, everything's Krishna. So, because if we're whimsical, cheap, or frivolous, then it's like everything can be in creation Krishna service. So whatever I do, it's like Krishna service. No. That's actually a science. It's actually an art. Because otherwise, what we're doing in the name of Bhakti Yoga, Shruti Smriti Purnati Panchracha Vidimvina Ahipati Ahera Bhakti Utpatayada Kapate. So Prabhupada quotes this verse a lot. Because if we're doing so-called bhakti, that's not aligned with the parampara, that's not aligned with the shastra, with our current link to the parampara, then probably in the name of bhakti, we're going to create more disturbance. We're going to create disturbance more than inspiration in spiritual life. So no, if we don't have realization how to gauge everything in Krishna service, then in the name of Yukta Vairagya and Bhakti, then we might very well just be alienating ourselves further and further, and alienating others, and creating disturbance, and in really doing a disservice in the name of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada cautions about that a lot, and that's why it's important that we're rigorous to know Prabhupada and what he gave and what he didn't give, but what he didn't give, to know what is actually service. Okay, I'll read the verse again. Text 15, chapter 2, canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, Spashantarupe, Shvitaraya Svarupe, Abhyardyamane Smanukam Pitadma, Paravaresho Mahadam Shayukta Yajo Pitato Bhagavan Yatakni. The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creations, is unborn. But when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva. Hare Krishna, thanks for your presence. Thanks for listening. Thank you. You're welcome. Any questions, comments, realizations at this point?
I can share really quick.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the class. I really appreciate it. What I'm appreciating most is how the Prabhupada is describing like these topmost devotees who are free from material and spiritual desires.
Yeah.
Even like the desire to go to Vrindavan or anything. It's just, I'm yours, like whatever you want, send me to hell. And and then bringing up how Lord Chaitanya prays and how Narottam Das Thakur prays.
Yes.
Birth after birth, like you're my Lord, like engage me in your service.
Yeah.
And that feels really simple.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see how like absorbed and contaminated I am and distracted with so many desires. So it's like it's nice that I can like be like endeavor to be that simple. Just serve me, like engage me in your service. Please engage me in your service.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Bhaktanika. Thanks for sharing how you're moved and inspired by where the verse and Prabhupada's purport go. And just engage me in your service. And then we get to look into the mirror of that and see saying, oh, okay. Prabhupada wrote saying, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and complicated for the crooked. They say, I got a lot of crookedness going on there at the same time. Not to become discouraged, like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is so encouraging. So this is the path I aspire on, and like how you just emphasize the simplicity and Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's we endeavor to focus on the vibration of the mantra, and at the same time the mood of the vibration. It's a prayer. Please engage me in your service. Please, Srila Prabhupada, please, Krishna, engage me in your service. Thank you, Bhakti. Yes.
So one realization that I had during class was that these desires that I had for like where I want to live or a certain kind of relationship or a certain amount of money, I think I'm just really in awe of the process because today I didn't feel as attached to those.
Okay.
Like I was really feeling like, okay, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do. Like I didn't, my grip didn't feel as tight.
That's tight.
And I didn't do that.
Yeah, that was like that was grace given to you.
Yeah. So thank you for class. I also hope I spoke loud enough.
Thanks for sharing, Bhakti and Casey. We able to hear Casey? Not so much. Okay. Would you like me to translate?
Yes, please.
Same language, higher volume. Casey shared very movingly for me that during class that she felt that desires, I want to live in this kind of place. I want this kind of relationship. So she felt in the past 60 minutes, her tight grip on this is what my life I want it to look like kind of loosened. And it was like peaceful, liberating, like, okay. You might still aspire towards this goal in that direction. I want that sort of life. And okay, and however it unfolds, let me serve you now and tomorrow and always. Let me serve you. And so like your tight attachment to what different areas of your life should look like, your grip loosened. Again, what a relief. Thanks for sharing, Casey. Bhakti and Kim.
Hare Krishna. That I can't probably express. I can't express what I was thinking well, I'm sure, but it was funny. I was thinking about a lot of the things you talked about today, and just about how, well, many years ago, I met Srila Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, and he had said that no matter how long it takes, he would come back into the world, into the material world, until I got out. And I hope he doesn't keep that promise, because heaven knows how long I could take. I feel bad about that promise from time to time, but it touched me so deeply, I couldn't believe. But the thing is that, you know, one thing I realized at that point is that for a pure devotee, when a person becomes a pure devotee, they really don't care about leaving. I mean, they'll just come back, you know, like a lot of us think, oh, we got to get out of this material world, but they'll come back forever, you know, to help people. You know, it's amazing the way they are. So it's just an interesting thing. And I'm not expressing it well, but pulled it all together to what you were talking about. It was what I was thinking about this morning. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhakti Kim. And here I get that was maybe decades ago, and you're very moved that you could see you're feeling so moved, inspired, grateful to Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, that he shared with you personally that he's ready to come back again and again, you know, till you're pure in your Krishna consciousness, and you're not stuck in the cycle of birth and death. And you're in this class, you know, related to that, compassionate spirit of the pure devotee, and like Lord Shiva's statement to his wife, that they can be whatever. I'll go to hell to do Sankirtan. I'll go to Florida or Europe or whatever. I'll go to the heavenly planets. I'll go wherever to compassionately deliver the fallen souls. Thanks for sharing, Kim. Anandini.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class and the discussion. And I was also contemplating on this. So it's like being the servant of the servant, to have no other desire than to serve, and no matter what it looks like. I want to know how to come to that consciousness. Like I see that in my life, I have such a I don't know, like almost like I cannot help myself, but always make plans and have visions. This is how I'm going to serve. This is where I'm going to, and then life happens and things are taken away, or are, you know, like come to an end, or like my children grow up, and in summer I will no longer be a homeschooling mom. So, and I am very identified with that role. It's like a service, and I like it. And so when that's gone, so what, you know, I come into like fear. So what is my role? And I need to create something new. I need to have a new vision, and because my consciousness is not pure, there's always, you know, also it's also about how will I, you know, how will I enjoy with the senses? What does life need to look like so that I'm not suffering? and so, and I was reading this morning in Srimad Bhagavatam about Prahlad, what he learned in his mother's womb, and he's sharing that with his schoolmates and saying, okay, get free from all material conceptions of life.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, how does that work? You know, to just be totally detached. What does it look like to not have? Does it mean I don't have visions? Or no, I'm in this question. That, and as you're mentioning, like you're going into the advanced course, which is so much about, like when we come out of the advanced course, how do we create our life, writing a pact, and, you know, creating life. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a clear, yes, I have a clear question. How do I come to this place of wanting to serve and being detached from what it looks like?
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for asking. Again, indeed. Well, I mean, there's a lot there in your question. For me, that's one of those how-to questions where the response on one level is how to, the response is everything, meaning that the more we absorb ourselves in Bhagavad Gita, the more we chant our rounds attentively, the more we follow the regulative principles strictly, the more we stay away from frivolous sense gratification, the more we rise early for samsara, the more we study Prabhupada's books and distribute them, the more we engage in the process, then the more we, and I have very little realization, but I have enough drops of realization over the 40 years or so that I'm practicing Krishna consciousness in some way, that this works. This isn't just theory. That the more we do that, then the more we come out of conditioning, right? And conditioning, and then the whole cosmos is open to us. Conditioning means we're accepting as true something that's not true. So yeah, well, I'm David Wolf. Born in 1960 in Philadelphia. You're Annette. You're from Switzerland. Oh, okay, like that. So this is conditioning, and that's not true. No, I'm spirit soul, servant of Kriya, and so we have so many conditioning based on the body and bodily conceptions and upbringing and who my parents were and what I learned. And so the more we practice it, transcendental means transcendental to all those conditioned misconceptions. And the more we get realization, the more we get realization of the falsity of the conditioning, right? So you reference Prahlad. So Prahlad, he's speaking to his classmates, says, yeah, well, I'm in this demon family and we're learning economics, and then Prahlad's talking to them about this whole other world where the real eternal joy is available. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So, okay, so Lord Chaitanya said, Gopi Bhartu Padakamalaya Dasa Dasa Nudas, the servant of the master of the gopis. So we endeavor, so Srila Prabhupada, he's like the perfect, Prabhupada talks a lot about Prahlad Maharaj. That's one thing, because there's some places you can go. I'm kind of hesitant to say this in Bhagavatam class. Some places where they talk about Prahlad Maharaj was actually a devotee mixed with Gyan, and just like, no, here Prabhupada talks about Prahlad, not just Prabhupada, the Bhagavatam as like the perfect devotee in the highest stage of ecstasy. So don't be influenced by other places. That's part of the Shruti Smriti Purnati Panchocha Vidimvina. So Srila Prabhupada is the perfect servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So I know, to the extent that I'm clear, how can I serve you, Srila Prabhupada? Then sure, I might be engaging my intelligence, but because there's such an unlimited abundance of service to do for Prabhupada's movement in let's call it somewhat conventional ways, in creative ways, in bold and innovative ways. There's such an abundant service to do that I know, if we're sincere, Prabhupada, I want to serve you, then we'll get realization and inspiration how to serve. And be careful, because that inspiration of how to serve, it might not conform with, well, here's my plan of what I wanted to do, and if I surrendered to what's being realized and revealed, well, that could be stretchy. It could stretch us out of our 9 dots conditioning. So, and I know, the more it's simple. I appreciate your question. The more that I'm associating with those who honestly want to serve Prabhupada, with Prabhupada as our current link, servant of the servant of the servant, to the extent that I'm honestly associating with those who honestly want to serve Prabhupada, then I get more and more clear, then I get more and more cleansed and transcendental to my unnecessary complexity. So the association of sincere followers of Prabhupada who are honestly wanting to serve him with simplicity and without unnecessary complexity. And that's the thing, because like surrender means, okay, like how can I serve you? Oh, there's a quote I've heard attributed to Saint Augustine. He said, "Oh Lord, give me chastity, but not just yet." So, meaning, I mean, like, okay, so like if we're really surrendered, then we might get some stretch in devotional service. That's like, yeah, maybe 5 years from now, so how ready are we to completely surrender? And surrender means surrendering my condition, surrendering my conditioning, and the service that's revealed to us and the service we're inspired to do, it might be aligned with our conditioning. It's just like, okay, like I endeavor to engage like transformational processes and psychological process in bhakti yoga, like that. And my sense is like, yeah, so that in many ways that's maybe aligned with my conditioned psychophysical nature. And but even so, if I was a pure devotee, whether it's me or someone, well, for sure, Prabhupada wants his followers in these fields. He wants his followers in these fields. So it's not necessarily that if we fully surrender, we'll get services that's outside of our plans, but it means like, yeah, I'm making plans and I'm not attached to them. I'm not attached to those plans like that.
Thank you. Thank you for this. And like a further question or connected to that is, do we need or how much do we need a form? Like, like, I don't know how to say it. So to have a vision, this is how I would like to serve or how I want to serve. It's kind of a form for me that gives the service a form. And yeah, I don't know how to put the question really. Like, can we, is like to come to this place of, I only want to serve, no matter what the how. Does that require that we have realized the spiritual form?
Spiritual form.
Yes.
Well, Prabhupada wants us to make plans to serve Krishna and simultaneously to make plans like, Krishna, Prabhupada, here's how I want to serve your movement. And simultaneously to be surrendered and ready to do the needful, whether it's according to my plan or not. As far as, okay, where you went in your last statement about realize spiritual form, let's put a bookmark there. I see others have their hand up, because that's an interesting door that opens there. I see Ladini, Shakti, and Malini have their hand up. Ladini.
Hare Krishna. Yes, sorry, it took me a while to put myself off mute. Right. So, well, I am actually curious to hear your response to Anandini's question. But I wanted to share that I'm very glad, Anandini, that you raised your question, because I think I'm going through some like similar question back and forth. It's a little different for me, but same, like letting go of like having as a service to be a mother and like looking at other possibilities, and they are really like unlimited, and I don't know what to do for Shri Prabhupada. And also there are like ideas, okay, what do I do that my senses are gratified, or like should I just not worry about all that? And I have a tarot cards
Ladini Shakti, thanks for sharing. I'm reminded of Rupa Goswami's emphasis, Utsaha Nishcha Darya, patience, and this patience and day to day reminds me of like the quality of steadiness. Prabhupada would say, yeah, he's more interested in a steady moon than shooting stars. So I'm committed day after day. I'm committed. I'm going to be doing service tomorrow and a year from now. And I'm committed for this lifetime. Thanks for emphasizing patience. Patience is such a essential quality in this process of bhakti. Thank you, Ladini Shakti. Malini Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you for the conversation, and I can relate to that too. I don't know what's my service, and I was clear about my service for so many years, and at the same time, I know what's my service. To say I don't know what my service is kind of dishonest, because like the first three process of devotional service is hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord. And then sometimes we do get busy and, may not see those as service, but they are full service, and there's the most important service and the most, the most we can do for repaying our debt to Srila Prabhupada. And then I resonate with Ladini's sharing about there is no loss or diminution in creating vision for service. If the vision are aligned with Srila Prabhupada's mission, then in a sense we engage in Srila Prabhupada's mission, whether or not things manifest to our eyes or not, or whether or not they're manifesting, like Ladini said, it's a good engagement of the mind to think about service, to constantly meditate, how can I rack my brain to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission? And to do that, there is no impediment, like we can be in a bed and dead or half dead, or, we can always meditate on service. And then I resonate also with Ladini words. That's similar to my take on it. Is like Krishna have always thing on my workbench. He always brings thing on my workbench, and then I can focus on those things on my workbench right there. Like maybe I have an idea for service, and Krishna is kind of telling me what my service is. And sometimes it aligns, sometimes it doesn't align. However, right here and there, it's kind of obvious what my service is. And then, so to combine the two and with vision, and when I have vision, I pray to the Lord, like, if that's what you want, if that's the way you want me to serve Srila Prabhupada, and going to a place of humility, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how to manifest it, I don't have the strength. I feel very small and I feel very inadequate. And then please engage me in your service. Please engage me in service to Srila Prabhupada's mission. Please, whatever small effort I'm capable, whatever small I'm capable of doing, please allow me to do that small service for Srila Prabhupada's mission. And then, I think by meditating in that way, we probably make progress into like not being attached to the form while still, being eager to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission in big ways, big ways, in fact. I want to everybody in the world to chant Hare Krishna. I want to see only people with japa beads on their hands in the street of, wherever the world, like that. So that's what I wanted to share. And then and about the spiritual form. Well, our spiritual form is very clear to me. Our spiritual form is that we are associate of Srila Prabhupada and we are supposed to serve him. And by serving his mission, we are serving in our very spiritual form. Like even Prahlad Maharaj, we don't hear about spiritual form because being Prahlad Maharaj and serving the way he does is his spiritual form. And at the same time, we see that he's taking birth in Lord Chaitanya's movement. And again, like as Vasudev taught, like we saw in last chapter, he is in his spiritual form and his mission is the same, his meditation is the same. I want everyone in this material universe and in all the material universe to be going back to Godhead. Yeah, so that's what came to me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Malini. Very inspired by your sharing, and enthusiastically make plans. Krishna and Prabhupada are looking at us, wanting to know, how do you want to serve me? And then at the same time, I like how you emphasized everything you emphasized. So we know it's our service to chant a minimum of 16 rounds per day, give our sincere effort to chant attentively. It's our service to read Prabhupada's books, all of his books, over and over again. And so, and then be ready. Okay, be ready. Make plans, and let's see what Krishna is putting on my workbench. And I appreciate what you shared about spiritual form. And so we endeavor to increase our sincerity in the mode of Prabhupada. How can I serve you? How can I serve your movement? And then to the extent that we're in that consciousness, we do increasingly discover spiritual form. We spiritualize our senses. And to be preoccupied with what's my form in the spiritual world, that's not what Prabhupada gave us. I like how you mentioned Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, that is his spiritual form. And of course, but Prahlad Maharaj appears in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and forms, other spiritual forms like Haridas Thakur. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Humbly, how can I serve in some small drop of a way? And at the same time, let's be enthusiastic. Let's have a vision. Let's have a vision for, okay, if it seems for the whole planet to chant Hare Krishna, okay, maybe at least these people in my sphere, these Alachua County, Switzerland, let's have a vision. Let's make plans. Simultaneously realize, and wow, I'm feeling so weak. I am so weak and unqualified. Nimitamashram Bhava Savisachi, Krishna Srila Prabhupada, please use me as your instrument to do something that will please you. Thank you, Malin. Hare Krishna, thank you all for your presence in Krishna Conscious Association. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, thank you all.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.